The birthday balloon popped like a gunshot, startling everyone in the room. But it wasn't the balloon that made my blood run cold. It was watching my mother-in-law Sandra grab my 3-year-old daughter Emma's wrist so hard that red marks appeared instantly. "Stop being such a whining brat," she shrieked, her face twisted with genuine hatred as she shook my baby girl like a rag doll. "My name is Jessica, I'm 29, and I work as a marketing coordinator." This is the story of how one horrific moment at my daughter's birthday party led to the most satisfying revenge I've ever witnessed. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. 2 years ago, I thought I'd won the lottery when I married Daniel. He was successful, charming, and seemed like the perfect father material. What I didn't realize was that I was actually marrying two people. Daniel and his psychotic mother Sandra, who treated him like her emotional husband and me like an unwanted intruder. The red flags started immediately after our wedding. Daniel would call Sandra every morning before work, every lunch break, and every evening before bed. "Just checking on Mom," he'd say casually, as if this was normal behavior for a grown man. Sandra would text him constantly throughout the day with updates about her doctor appointments, her grocery shopping, even her bathroom schedule. I wish I was joking. When Emma was born, Sandra announced she was moving closer to help with the baby. Help turned out to mean criticizing everything I did while contributing absolutely nothing. She'd arrive at 7 a.m. uninvited, critique my breastfeeding technique, rearrange my kitchen cabinets, and then demand I cook her elaborate meals because new grandmothers deserve to be pampered. The breaking point came 6 months ago when Sandra moved into our guest room permanently after claiming she was too lonely in her own apartment. From day one, she treated our home like her personal kingdom and me like the unwelcome servant. She'd wake up at 5 a.m. and blast gospel music throughout the house, claiming she needed to cleanse the negative energy I apparently brought into the home. She'd use all the hot water for her hour-long baths, then complain when Emma's bath water wasn't warm enough. She'd eat our groceries, wear my clothes without asking, and once even threw away my expensive skincare products because they were too fancy for someone like me. But the absolute worst part was watching Daniel transform into a spineless child whenever Sandra was around. This confident businessman would literally ask his mother's permission before making decisions about our own household. "Mom, is it okay if we order pizza tonight? Mom, do you think Jessica should take Emma to the park or is it too cold? Mom, should we paint the nursery blue or yellow?" I felt like I was living in some twisted psychological thriller where the villain had successfully brainwashed my husband into believing I was the problem. Everything exploded at Emma's 3rd birthday party. I'd spent weeks planning the perfect celebration, decorating our backyard, ordering a custom princess cake, inviting all of Emma's little friends from daycare. Sandra had been unusually quiet all morning, which should have been my first warning sign. The party was going beautifully until Emma accidentally bumped into Sandra while carrying a piece of cake. The cake splattered across Sandra's white dress, a dress she'd specifically chosen to wear to a toddler's birthday party, by the way. What happened next still gives me nightmares. Sandra's face contorted with pure rage as she grabbed Emma's tiny wrist and yanked her off the ground. "You stupid, clumsy little beast!" she screamed directly into my daughter's face, shaking her so violently that Emma's feet left the ground. "I hate you. You've ruined everything since the day you were born." The entire party went silent. 20 parents and children watched in horror as this supposedly loving grandmother terrorized a 3-year-old child. Emma's screams pierced the air as Sandra continued her assault, calling my baby girl names that would make a sailor blush. That's when my mama bear instincts kicked in with a vengeance I didn't know I possessed. I launched myself across the yard and physically ripped Emma from Sandra's grip, holding my sobbing daughter against my chest while staring down the monster who dared hurt my child. "Get out," I said, my voice deadly calm despite the rage burning through my veins. "Get out of my house right now." Sandra's eyes blazed with fury. "This is my son's house too. You can't kick me out." "Watch me," I replied, already pulling out my phone. "I'm calling the police and reporting you for child abuse. Every single person here witnessed what you just did." That's when Daniel finally spoke up, but not to defend his daughter or his wife. "Mom didn't mean it," he said weakly, looking around at the shocked faces of our neighbors. "Jessica, you're embarrassing us in front of everyone." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. My own husband was more concerned about his image than his daughter's safety. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just married to a mama's boy. I was married to a coward who would sacrifice his own child to avoid confronting his abusive mother. "Pack your bags," I told Sandra, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent backyard. "Both of you. You have 1 hour to get out of my house." Sandra smirked, clearly thinking she'd won. "Fine by me. Daniel, tell your wife she just made the biggest mistake of her life." But here's where Sandra's arrogance became her downfall, and where my story becomes absolutely delicious. 3 days later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office with a folder full of evidence that would destroy both Sandra and Daniel's lives forever. You see, while Sandra was busy tormenting me and Daniel was busy enabling her, I'd been quietly documenting everything. Every abusive text message Sandra sent me. Every email where she called Emma defective and suggested we get rid of her. Every recording I'd secretly made of her screaming fits and violent threats. Every photo of the damage she'd caused to our home during her tantrums. But the Rayol nuclear bomb was what I'd discovered about Sandra's finances. Remember how she claimed to be too poor to live on her own? Turns out she'd been hiding a massive inheritance from her late husband. Over $800,000 that she'd kept secret while mooching off us for months. My lawyer smiled as he reviewed the evidence. "This is going to be fun," he said. The divorce papers were served to Daniel at his office in front of his entire team. The restraining order against Sandra was delivered by police officers who informed her that any contact with Emma or me would result in immediate arrest for stalking and harassment. But the best part was yet to come. Daniel called me crying the next day. "Jessica, please, we can work this out. Mom said she's sorry." "Too late," I replied cheerfully. "Also, you might want to check your bank accounts." Turns out, when Sandra realized she might actually face legal consequences for her behavior, she decided to cut and run, taking every penny from Daniel's savings account with her. She'd somehow convinced him to give her power of attorney in case of emergencies, then drained his entire life savings while fleeing to another state. The man who chose his abusive mother over his innocent daughter was left with nothing. No wife, no child, no savings, and no mother who actually cared about him. Meanwhile, Emma and I moved into a beautiful new apartment where she can play and laugh without fear. She's thriving in therapy, slowly recovering from the trauma Sandra inflicted. And me. I'm happier than I've been in years, finally free from the toxic cycle of abuse and enablement. The most satisfying part is that Sandra destroyed herself. Her own greed and cruelty led to her losing the son she claimed to love so much. She got exactly what she deserved. Nothing. As for Daniel, last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment and begging his mother to return his money. Apparently, Sandra changed her phone number and disappeared completely after cleaning out his accounts. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting toxic people destroy themselves. And sometimes, protecting your child means having the courage to walk away from people who will never change. Emma is safe, I'm free, and the monsters who tried to break us are exactly where they belong, alone with the consequences of their own cruelty.